What is up, everyone? You know who I am. I'm Jack Slater, aka the Comic Outlaw, and I'm sporting my spirit animal. Anyways, you're probably wondering what the new digs. I got stranded in some multiverse. I'm hiding out for a moment, ducking out from the good guys. Me and my sidekick right there. And you know how things are, traveling from multiverse to multiverse. But your boy's still here now, and I want to go over a few things, just so you know. Man, this is going to be like the closing for She-Hulk. So if you haven't seen my videos on She-Hulk, all 25, you might want to plug your ears now because I get tired of people complaining that I do spoilers, even though it's what I do. So, if you haven't read my things, cover your ears now and go la 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 la, or get your ass up and look at my videos. Now, whew, God, what can I say about She-Hulk? Man, that was like the heartbreak ridge of comics in a lot of ways. I love She-Hulk. I mean, like, if you heard my toy review, if you heard a lot of different things, I've always liked the character. I've always had a respect for the character. But these original issues were just. Ugh. Don't get me wrong, there were some good issues, but there was a lot of unnecessary drama, I could say. Oh, man. I like the idea that Stanley had it where she was a lawyer or a successful woman, but they really played a lot on the idea of her daddy issues and this and that. There was a lot more drama than it should have been. Uh, but then again, it was the 80s. And a lot of weird shit happened in the 80s. Like I said, when I was a kid, I only had the first 10 issues. And it was okay. And then as I got older, I found out there's more, and it's a mixed bag. I'm not saying it's bad all the way through, but there's a lot of garbage that kind of sort of ruined her reputation, like later on. All right, to start out, Jen and She-Hulk at this point are sort of two different people, but not. Yeah. And she also gets in a love triangle with Zapper, the main Mexican with a porno mustache, and the biggest loser I've ever seen in my fucking life, Rory, there we go. The slave of man thing, or the man thing psyker, whatever the hell he is. There's a lot of theme, like, for being a very independent, this is one thing that I kind of didn't like about the series, because they really try to play her off as an independent lawyer, kick ass this and that, and she had daddy issues, she had boyfriend issues, it was a lot of drama, like I said, and drama can be good. Drama does sell, but sometimes when it's too much, like a soap opera, it tends to bring a comic book down. There's a difference between comic books and soap operas. For example, all right, there are dramatic themes in comic books. Take The Watchmen. Very good. A lot of dramatic themes. Great series. But it just didn't have like this weird kind of feel to it. Like, it was like watching one of those soap operas that you watch, like your mom would watch, when you're a little kid. Like, what's it called? One Life to Live, or whatever it was. And that kind of dragged it down a little bit. Also, there was the inconsistency in the villains. That's another thing too that kind of bothers me. You have really good villains, and then you have really shitty villains, and then you have issues where she's sort of doing something but not, and it goes back a lot. You can kind of see where the writers are kind of fumbling things because they keep rehashing on the same, and that happens in comic books. All right, I understand that sometimes when you pick up an issue, especially back in the 80s, that could be your first issue. All right, and they want to get you interested, but Spider-Man did not tell the same backstory over and over and over again in the first 20 issues. Neither did the Fantastic Four. They touched on it here and there. You know, they gave you a little review, but this story just keeps dragging you down, and it cuts away from the action. Take her father, for example. He's a cop. He kind of loses faith in Jennifer. You know, thinks she's allowed. She can't keep her word. After she gets her powers of She-Hulk, and she's disappearing. And he thinks She-Hulk is a menace because She-Hulk gets framed for killing this dude, even though she tried to save him. And yes, there's this lawyer, and man, he is like the sleaziest scumbag that you'll ever meet. I mean, like, his name is literally not worth remembering. Like, I can't think of it right now, but there's just so much drama going on. It seemed more like a soap opera than it actually did like a comic book. And then when it did have action, it lasted a while, but not as much to the satisfaction of a reader. You can see why it only went 25 issues, which is really sad. And it kind of set a precedence for She-Hulk, where they made her more of a comedic character for a long time, and more of a sex pot, you know, character. Which, if you kind of read the She-Hulk first issue, like first 20, she never really gave that impression off. You know, like, if you like the original, that's one thing that I do like about the original issues. They, over the other ones, is they made her into a sex symbol. They made her like this and that. She ended up banging Juggernaut. She ended up banging Hercules. She ended up banging, you know what I mean? The list of dudes that she's banged is almost as long as the list of women that Daredevil or Wolverine has banged. And I'm not saying anything about that. I know sexuality and this and that, but she was more grounded in the original issues. That is one thing I do like about it. She was in a love triangle, yes, but she wasn't off doing everyone in the world. You know what I mean? Like, certain writers make She-Hulk kind of a slut or kind of a sex, like I said, you know, and that's actually really sad, considering the character, considering the basis for the character. I do like later on in stories how she became an attorney. She was helping superheroes sue things. That's interesting. I actually liked her run in the Fantastic Four. That's actually where I started to know who She-Hulk was, during the Fantastic Four run, because back in the day, I know you guys don't, or you kids don't know this because nobody looks this shit up, but before the internet, and it's the same in this reality as it is in mine, there were books. And back in the day, Marvel released Marvel Masterworks, which was just a summation of stories from issue 1 to blah, 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 you know. You know, they did touch on certain things with Parker, but not, you know. Oh, man. I must say, the story kind of, like, really is sort of inconsistent. I mean, like, it's supposed to be one villain all the way through. You know, like, he invents these monsters and robots and things to sort of attack or kill She-Hulk because she kind of stopped the mob. They kind of sent people after her, and they got out of control. And then, in the spoilers, in the last issue, the dude hooks his brain up to the thing. He becomes a living example of Earth. There's mutants living on the ground. There's an 8-year-old kid with psychic powers. It's just like I said, when it's slow, it's slow. And then when it picks up, it picks up. And they don't have as much explanation as they do her love triangle or her problems with her father. And her father, man, this guy is one of the most, like the mayor from Jaws. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look that motherfucker up. And then he's hooked up with a chick, and this chick is one of the greediest bitches ever. Manipulative. You would not, like, Like I said, it is literally a soap opera. But all in all, you have to give these issues credit. They did break ground for the character. The character had a nice groundswell. I mean, if this character was one and done and forgotten, it would have went the way of Man Wolf. You don't know what I'm talking about? Google that motherfucker and see what the fuck I'm saying. Oh yeah, this ain't a fucking children's show, just so you know. Man, characters come in and out. Like I said, like things get weird, and then they kind of just mellow out. I am happy that Zapper, the Mexican dude with the afro and the mustache I mentioned, he does get a little taste of She-Hulk. And in the end, spoilers, last issue, he's with her. I mean, like, she chooses him over this other dude. And the interesting thing is that she actually loves him as She-Hulk first. So, do what you will with that. And like I said, the issue ends, and then the other series, which I will be covering because She-Hulk seems to be a mainstay on my channel, and the sensational She-Hulk issues are actually, some of them are comedic, but a lot of the stories are actually really good. There's a lot of different villains and heroes, and it tells more of a consistent story. So I'm probably gonna be covering those very, very soon. But damn, this was a strange trip with these. If you listen to some of the stuff that I say, I'm just like, I mean, there's a few notable guests. Like, she gets sick because, okay, if you don't know this, I'm explaining her origin. She was a lawyer. Bruce Banner, the Hulk, was kind of passing through. They were like really good family, really good cousins. She kind of got in trouble with the mafia. They took a shot at her. Bruce was her blood type and gave her a blood transfusion. And then under the stress, he turned into the Hulk and kind of smashed his way out of there. Like nobody would fucking notice that. But that's neither here or there. Which kind of turned her into She-Hulk. Now, She-Hulk has her faculties. She's smarter than Bruce. I mean, even like right away, because if you haven't like kind of studied the Hulk, Hulk is a kind of an amalgamation of Bruce's shattered psyche. Bruce is a very brilliant man, but he's a very shattered man in a lot of ways. Jennifer is more grounded, so she was able to handle it a lot better. And of course, there is sort of a separation, but she ends up realizing that they are the same person. You see what I'm saying? Like, She-Hulk starts off kind of primitive at first, but as the story progresses, these are the steps that make her into the person that she becomes later on. Whew, yes. Elephant Man was interesting. He was an interesting villain. There's not really a lot of notable villains. I do think it's interesting that she ends up getting sick, like I was saying before, and Morbius, yes, the living vampire Morbius, actually stabilizes her condition with kind of a redo or a rehash of the potion that he used, and which could feasibly explain why she probably has a lot more control than Bruce. Another reason, because the way the blood transfusion happened, she was dying. Zapper had to call someone in. It ended up being Morbius. And just so I don't know when you're going to watch this video, but I don't know if the Morbius movie is going to be out by this time or if it's going to get canceled or whatever. Morbius is a living vampire who, not by getting bitten, he experimented on himself. And he sort of stabilizes her condition, and it turns into a big thing, you know. And it's interesting how like the writers didn't really explore other relationships with She-Hulk, except for a lot of characters that were unknown or like B or C characters, like Man-Thing. And I know there's a lot of Man-Thing fans out there, or a few, you know, but they didn't really have a lot, to really go on this, and I don't really understand because it was done by Stan Lee. I mean, like it was supposed to be. You think there'd be a Spider-Man or anything else? No, that happened later in Sensational She-Hulk, which I probably will be covering. But yes, overall, I have to rate this series just because I love Jennifer Walters and I love She-Hulk. I mean, whew, there's realities, boy. Well, I can tell you, that's another story for another time. So I'm gonna give it like if I have 5 stars, I'm gonna give it a 2.5, maybe a 3 for certain issues. But you have to keep in mind this is kind of a time capsule comic book. Okay, soap operas are really big. They're trying to do something different, and whatever they did worked because the character did last and still lasts. She's a member of the Fantastic Four. She was a member of the Avengers. And there's a television show coming out soon, or you might have already seen it, depending on which time you watch this, because we move forward and we move back. But as human beings, we never stand still, if you know what I'm saying. So, I definitely would just check this out to get an idea of who she was, and kind of like, if you haven't seen the show yet, or if you're kind of like about the show, this might give you a rough idea on who the basis of the character is. Because Stan Lee wrote the first issue, and then he kind of whoop, which was kind of like Stan Lee's trademark for a lot of different things. He would be on for a few issues and then he'd disappear. That's why I'm covering the Fantastic Four, because it's one of the longest things that he ever worked on. But the character itself is supposed to be a strong, independent, smart woman. And I hope in the show they really focus on that. But, and in everything, we will see. Nothing's ever written in stone. And you never know how things are going to go. I mean, look at. But as always, I'm Jack Slater, the Comic Outlaw. And check it out. Hit that like button, subscribe, man. And if you disagree with me, hit me up on the comments. And I may or may not fight with you. But anyways, your main man has women to do, places to see, and of course, mischief to cause. So, I will catch you on the flip side. Yeah.